You ever wonder how they did the cloning effect in the Matrix movie? Well, let's see how to do this in Resolve. The first thing you want to do is to capture your footage on a stable tripod. It's very important that there's no movement. The second thing you want to consider is to record the video clip either continuous as your subject moves at defined intervals, or separate video clips for each of the positions of your subject, but in that case you'd start and stop the camera. I don't recommend that you start and stop the camera because it's a risk of the camera moving, so I typically just do it continuously. The third thing you want to consider is avoid crossing either the horizontal or the vertical plane of your subjects. At a minimum, don't overlap the path of the person being cloned. If you overlap the path, then it's almost very difficult to offset it. If you overlap the plane, there's a second way that's a little more complex that I'll show you later how to handle that. Okay, so let's grab our clip here. I'm just going to get the video only. I'm not going to deal with any sound. In this case, I have a continuous clip where the subject is on the right side of the screen at the beginning, and then about 2 minutes in, you'll see that they walked over to the next location right there. So what I'm going to do is just cut it right about here, and then approximately 2 minutes in again, right there. I'm going to cut it again. All right. Now what I'm going to do is actually crop this because I want it to make sure that he's at the position, the final position. So I'm going to go ahead and crop that. I'm going to crop this a little bit there. Just good enough. I'll put these in order. I'm just going to shorten these just for the purposes of this tutorial. Okay, so at the beginning here you see the individual here on the left, and since this clip is at the top, play it, you'll notice that there's nothing else showing with the other subjects. So what we're going to do now, since we did not cross the vertical plane of each of the subjects, we select this, go into Inspector, and we're going to right crop the effect. Okay, so now you can see that we've revealed the second subject. And if you look closely, you can see a little line here. So I'm going to bring it back here, and then I'm going to apply a little feathering with the softness until the line disappears. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with the second clip. We're going to go back into Inspector, and we're going to crop. So we're going to do it right about there, and you can see the line here. So I'm going to do the same thing with the feather effect until it disappears. Okay, here we go. All right, and that's it. So now you've got all three subjects in the screen at the same time. Now let's say that you want the first subject here on the left to be on, but not have the other ones come on until later. That's real simple. So we'll go back to the leftmost video clip, which is the one on top, and we're going to erase this. We're going to just remember 1312.7. We're just going to clear that out. And what we're going to do, let's say we want it to turn on right about here. So what we're going to do is set a keyframe at 0, advance to the right 1 keyframe, and then we're going to set this at 1312.7. All right, so now what we have is it's going to start off playing without anything, with just the leftmost subject, and then as it gets to that keyframe, it's going to all of a sudden appear. And you can do the same thing with any one of these if you want to bring one or the other in or out. So what happens if you do in fact cross, in this case, the vertical plane? Let's say that this individual here walks over here. He doesn't necessarily cross the path of the rightmost subject, but he does cross the plane. So it's such that you can't just use a crop to the right or to the left, or in the case of a horizontal plane, the top and the bottom. Well, in that case, we're going to need to go into our color tab and do what's known as a power window. So let me go ahead and reset all of these. I'm just going to use one of these as an example. Just reset that. All right. So now what we want to do here in the color section is we will select the third clip, because the third one is the one on top, remember? So that's the subject here, which is the person on the left. And this is the one we want to cut out so that it will reveal just the body here onto the second image. So what I'm going to do is select Power Window. I'm going to use the Freeform tool. And I'm just going to rough it in for the purposes here of this tutorial without being accurate. And then what we want to do is right click here and select Add Alpha Output. We connect it up. And there we have it. And so this is what you would do in the event that you are crossing the horizontal or the vertical planes and the subject paths are not crossing. Now what you can do if this individual moves, you can also track it. And I'm not going to go through that here in this tutorial, but you can check out some of my other tutorials where I go into some of that. So that's how you can really get into the more complex cloning effects. So if you've got any questions, please leave those in the comments below. Otherwise, stay tuned for the next tutorial. Peace.